Welcome back. Well, yes, keeping up with that conversation about that meeting and the what lies ahead economically for states. We've got Mr. Emeka Okonkwo here with us. He's an estate surveyor and valuer, also a certified realtor. Thank you for coming on this morning. We also do have Anogwi Anyanwu, who is a former executive director for Mainstreet Bank. He's also the CEO of Mainstreet. Thank you for coming on as well today.
Thank you very much.
You know, when you listen to that or you look at some of the dailies where the governors are told to prepare for tough times, there may be another round of recession in 2020, you just ask yourself, look, is it that there's nothing that can be done about this kind of scenario? And one wonders, will Lagos State be sitting having a smile on their faces saying, we certainly don't face the same kind of situation that other states will face? But looking at those headlines, what comes to your mind?
What comes to my mind is that the governors are trying to frighten us. I think they need to sit down and do their jobs. We have the capacity to overcome an oncoming recession. We have a good population. We have a big market. We have work to be done in this nation. The governors should put the structures and processes in place for people to work in a disciplined manner, to deliver value to all of us, and there won't be any recession. They shouldn't prepare our minds for failure. We should be preparing our minds to do the hard work that is required to make all of us progressive and prosperous. We can do it. Believe me, we can.
Mr. Okonkwo, what do you think?
Interesting, but point is, well, I agree with him though, but I look at it from the other perspective. I think that is also good that they are realizing the enormity of what they came for. Because from day one, they should be able to realize that there's a huge demand waiting for them. Especially people in the 40 km of the realm, putting the pressures and the demands of the people and pointing them to the dangers that are already there, so that we can be able to decipher the people that were prepared for leadership from people who came to joke around in the place. This is also the time to start asking them programs they have for the problems that are already emerging.
But, you know, how significant is, yes, they are telling them, look, it's time to fold up your sleeves, but the process that produces some of, if not all of them, do we cast our mind back and say, look, well, we actually chose people who are well prepared for the job, and as such, we're not going to be scared that they have the wherewithal to do this?
Some states are lucky that they chose people who are well prepared for the job, both mentally and in terms of their experience. Some states may not be that lucky. So if you have a state that chose somebody that is well prepared mentally for the job, that is also skilled, that has the capacity to do the job and to deliver, then he will be able to harness the internal resources in the state to do the work. But if a state chose somebody who wants to play to the gallery, he just wants to enjoy the perquisites of office and the power that go with it, those states will be the ones that will go into deeper recession. But the ones who choose somebody with capacity and the ability and the intent to deliver value to the people, those ones, like you mentioned, Lagos, will, you know, be smiling when other people are saying, oh, we can't do it.
Well, the microcosm of the states is reflective of the bigger plan of the federal government to create jobs for the citizens of this country. But one will wonder how the governors will go about this when the federal government is planning to have infrastructure projects to create some of those jobs. Does it percolate to the state governments? Because very few of them have capital projects to undertake.
Yes, it can. You know, when the federal government embarks on huge infrastructure projects, most of the inputs are sourced from outside Nigeria. Sometimes the labor, the expertise, the manpower, the equipment, the technology, Everything comes from outside. So I will also recommend to the federal government that when you are doing huge infrastructure projects, you should look at whether they actually create employment in this country. Then coming to the states, they also have their own infrastructure projects which they can execute in such a way that is, manpower intensive. I'll give you an example. If you go to my state today, every single school, whether it's secondary or primary, is dilapidated. If the incoming governor sits down and says, listen, we're going to start renovating schools, and you structure it in such a manner that the artisans in each community will be the one doing the work, you set the standards so that everybody complies with the standards, that will create jobs. Today, agriculture has changed. Agriculture has changed. Now, with improved inputs, with a small plot of land, you can actually have a huge output. If government can focus on that and make sure that you create the enabling environment for people to develop the inputs that you need that will produce good output, and then you train people and make sure they do the job. Because one of the challenges we have as a country is that everybody wants to get without giving. So government comes up with a scheme to say, we want to set up this, we want to put people into it, go into agriculture, produce agriculture. The man who is collecting the money for the agriculture is not looking at any agricultural production. He's just looking at, okay, this is an opportunity to grab government money. So we also need to, have a way of letting the people know that all of us are in this together. And to make things work, we have to get involved.
Yes, but when you speak in that terms, I just want a better clarification, because there are skilled labels, there are semi-skilled labels, and then unskilled jobs you could get. There's just so much construction happening in the country now. People building houses, the property sector is booming, which is where you come from. But I'm just wondering, if he says that state governors can take advantage of this, what the reality is today will suggest to anyone watching that you've got this expatriate, not necessarily expatriate, but people that are working that are not Nigerians, from Benin Republic, for instance, or Cotonou, from Togo, for instance, who are doing those semi-skilled jobs, say, for instance, doing the POPs for houses, doing the tiling for the houses, even doing the mason jobs for the houses. These are jobs that Nigerians need to empower them. But at the end of the day, even if you give it to the Nigerians, it seems to suggest that they don't give you that kind of professional job. And then even if they give you that job, they make you feel as if they're doing you a favor. What is the problem in that sector?
Okay, let me put it in perspective so we can advance strategically in this discussion. First of all, I think it's a basic assumption that government wants to do right. And you need to realize that a lot of times the objectives of government are not aligned with the people. The people must demand. Every time the government has done right, it's because they've been pressured to do it. And I hear a lot of discussions about employment and all that. We are running a capitalist system, mixed economy, right? There is just no way you can sustainably grow this economy without creating capital. That's the basic thing. What is lacking here is that I think we mistake capital for money. And anything that pumps money into the system and gets people engaged for a minute, we think that is doing well and it can be sustainable. It can never be sustained. It's never been sustainable, and history is all over the place. If you look at all the old communist countries and the new emerging economies, which of them have pumping money into the economy has reflected their economy? It hasn't worked. Why capitalism have worked in the West and is not worked here is because we lack the capacity to produce capital. That's the point. And capital is, I was reading some statistics the other day, talking about 21 million unemployed Nigerians and all that. It's interesting. There's a very brilliant cerebral economist from England, Ellie Devins. Ellie Devins said that the problem with modern society is that economists are so removed from reality that as they develop more of their theories, they get more divergent from what is happening. In fact, he said it succinctly that if an economist wants to study horses, like he will sit in his office and ask himself what will he do if he was a horse. He will not go to look at the horses. But to be able to put these things in perspective, people say there's unemployment in Nigeria. I mean, you wake up in the morning, you see all the people that are all over the place. Everywhere you go in Lagos, people are struggling to get you to do a deal. The best salesmen I've seen in my life are beggars on the streets. Nigeria is such that, and the studies of Hernando de Soto established that developing countries like us have no unemployment. What we have is underemployment, because an average person in Nigeria would die in 3 days if he doesn't make money. They must make money every day. What do? Where is that all these energies unleashed? The challenge of governance is to solve complex problems. The bottom line is that we have all these entrepreneurial skills that are wasted. People are living on a daily basis. How do you harmonize these things to channel them in areas that can unleash real energy in the economy? You cannot do that without letting the people create their own capital.
So their capital is what? The skill set that they have?
No. Interesting question. Now, there is such a thing as assets. Let me give you a broader perspective so we can understand it. Capital emanated from a classical discussions in the Greek, right? They called capital like a head of cows, right? Where the basic thing you can derive from it is the meat. But that is the asset. The asset of you having a head of cows is just the meat. But the capital there is your ability to do the dairy, to do the tithe and all that. Then the whole concept of it is that capital is created through creative thinking. Just like Aristotle said, that your ability to derive more from something will increase exponentially when you apply your mind to the potentials that thing can produce. Not so much about the basic asset that you can get today. A lot of us in Nigeria have so much, I mean, people have gathered assets, but those assets are dead capital. Why? Because the engine room that creates capital, none of us have been able to get it to work. That is the basic problem.
What is the engine room?
That is the point. Capital is created through formal property systems. There is nothing that you own in the West today that is not recorded, that you can increase production. Capital itself is that ability of a system that is created by humans that can demand more production from a basic asset, right? I mean, we have the refineries. The oil that we have underneath is the asset. How do you get the oil? You need to build a refinery. That refinery, that whole complex system, that is the capital. People who denigrate us, who are the black race, claim that we haven't been able to create capital because we haven't been able to apply our minds to it. In solving this basic problem in the West, Tom Braden discovered that the ability for the average citizen to be able to enhance his own livelihood, protect his creation of wealth, even to the next generation, was only possible when he was able to have right over his properties. And when they documented it, and he can be able to give him credit against third parties, right? He called it the noblest triumph. That is the biggest triumph, apart from the independence of man.
All right, but Mr. Anyanwu, is this the thinking of the banking sector concerning capital?
No. Okay, before I go to the thinking of the banking sector, I would like to, say in simple terms what I understand by what he's saying. My uncle once told me that somebody told him in the 1940s in Port Harcourt that if money wants to come into a house, he will look through the window. If there is money inside the house, he will walk through the door. If there's no money in the house, he just think you are not a serious person and go to another person. So maybe that's what he's trying to illustrate about capital. Now, the Igbo say that if something starts on top of it. So capital building will mean that the investments we make today should stand to create more wealth tomorrow. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I was traveling from Bisen to Owerri, and I counted over 30 filling stations that were overgrown with weeds. Those things are the kind of dead capital he's talking about, because it's people's money they have put down as an investment, but it's dead. It's not generating anything. In fact, it actually destroyed farm lands. So, but from the banking perspective, banking creates capital also because it aggregates deposits and makes it available for investment, But those capitals will be able to, those pockets of capital will be able to become effective if they're harnessed in such a way that you can trade them. If you go to states, to get a CFO is an impossibility. That's the kind of thing he's talking about. If you make sure that everything you own is recognized in the economy, then you create the capital that will become available for investors. But the government also, like I said, have to, incentivize investors to put their money where it will create the greater economic impact. All these filling stations that talks about are a waste of money because they are not creating any jobs, they are not creating any economic activity. So government needs to incentivize people to say, okay, this is the area you will invest that will create more jobs, create more activity in the system. Take, for example, waste disposal is a place that you can invest in. If government gives incentives, it will create jobs because it's human beings that are disposing of the waste.
Yeah, where will the investments come from when you consider that the interest rate for the local banks here is just so enormous? And you cannot grow an economy at the interest rates that are just so high.
Yeah, I agree with the interest rates being high, but that's also part of the distortions in our economy. How will bank interest rate not be high when treasury bill rates are very high? And central bank is making interest in treasury bill rates high because they are worried about managing the exchange rate.
So if you were to advise the governors now, because they're talking about boosting their IGR, ensuring that they create jobs, even though you say they're underemployed, not that they don't have jobs. What should they, because the VP was saying, look, whichever way that you want us to collaborate with you, state governors, we will do it. What would you advise them to tell the government now, if they can, to ensure that they perhaps reflect their sector of the economy and then give them environments where they can create jobs?
Okay. To create jobs by the state governments, they should be able to, sorry, I lost my train of thought. The state governments actually can create jobs.
They can, or they create the environment?
No, they can create jobs. And they can also create the jobs by increasing the internally generated revenue.
How? Which workforce?
No. What happens in most states is that most of the revenue that should come to government go to private individuals. Those private individuals, it comes to them as easy money. So when they get it, they invest it in frivolity. They invest it to massage their ego. When you work hard to make money, you must try to invest that money where it can grow, where it can add value. But you go to states, what do you call it? The tax on houses, tenement rates are not being collected.
It depends on the state.
No. You go to markets.
Because some people pay through your noses.
I know, in this Lagos, yes. You go to some states, the income that comes from the market is pocketed by individuals. You go to states, the income that comes from the motor parks are pocketed by individuals. You go to states.
So all those informal areas need to be corrected.
Yes, they need to.
But Mr. Okonkwo, if I could bring you in here, because the private sector is huge. If they don't increase or enhance the capacity of the private sector, the government will not be the ones creating jobs. They have to create that environment. How should that nexus be done?
You know, he referred to his uncle. Let me just give you a simple example. We had a convergence, me and my old graduate school classmates. We couldn't come to Nigeria because of the elections. So this happened somewhere in Europe. And they had a study like we normally do every week, every time that we meet. Nigeria was in focus because I've tried to do the other countries. And they showed that the kind of progress that expatriates from different layers make in this economy is at so much disparity from what the locals do. So the discussion that I had, which was enormously embarrassing to me, was that there were people who come here and the records that they have, because we had some consultants who actually do work for them here that were there, so that these people are saying that Nigeria offers them the best economy, while the locals are saying that they can't get along. And the simple reason is that all of these people are aligned with this property formal system that I'm talking about. I'll give you an example. Only last week, I had a client that came to my office, one of these expatriates. He's just acquired new chattels. Those chattels were valued. He's borrowed against them and is unleashing more capacity in his production work, right? These people, when they come in, they are the only ones that are in this bell jar. This bell jar is small. The challenge to these governors today is to give us a scale on bringing in more people into this whole system.
From the locals?
Yes, that creates capital. Except you create capital. We'll be telling this story up and down, and people will come here and theorize and go and all that. People have dead assets that cannot produce anything for them. We need to be able to expand the system. You're talking about interest rates and all that in the bank. The banks are doing small businesses. By the time you pull in 5 more people into this formal system that I'm telling you, okay, I mean, let me give you another instance so that you can, you can just have critical examples of what I'm talking about. I had a lady in my church who she's got her stocks for the Easter period, and she wasn't able to make any sales and had to call me in panic. The children have come back from holidays and all that. I had to advance her some money. In Europe, there is nothing that you have that is not such that you can borrow against it. In the same week, I had a friend of mine who was telling stories here trying to get money to pay his children's school fees. The cousin just took a second mortgage in his asset in England and paid the fees. All of these things is what runs the formal economy. And the more we keep talking about all these small, you see, there's a huge nexus between governance and the people. Let me just give you an example so you can understand where we're having challenges. A lot of the people that do business in Nigeria are all beholden to the governors, to the government. They are the ones that patronize them. A lot of the people that are in the informal sector who have the most assets in the country are not so formalized, and the lobby groups are so weak that we cannot demand from government.
Yeah, what makes that situation, especially about the informal sector, being the SMEs now, what makes that the case?
What makes it the case is that they are out of the legal system. I drove down here now, look at the kind of property. How many people here have these assets are recorded and you can borrow 1 naira from it? None. That's the point. And when you cannot, you see, I've done some work.
Are you saying then that we have an SME sector that just has potential, that's not productive?
That's what I'm saying. And the SME, the one that you recognize, which is what the economists say and come and give theories, are less than 10% of the reality on the ground. That's the point. But see where I'm going to do. You see, we need to have a strategic enhancement of our capacity. No nation can grow except you are able to create capital. That's period. All right? Now, how you are able to do it, we are custodians of that process. Capital is born through a formal property system, period. There's no other way to do it. That is why the West is surviving with capitalism, and it's failed every other place. Look at all the old, there's a lot of frustration in the old communist society.
You talked about, sorry, sir, you talked the other time about, employment, underemployment, but, some other people have posited that a major challenge we have is that of the unemployability of a large number of people who are seeking employment.
Okay, there's no doubt that depending on your demands, if you want to come here, your diction needs to be right. Okay? So if you're at school in my village, maybe, you probably will have it in your head. You may not have it to give. Okay? We understand all that. But I'm looking at from where we can go from step 1 to 2. You see, I look at economics and I try to compare it with the concept of Jesus Christ. When he had 100 sheep, one was lost, he went for it. Economists give us numbers. And people, you see, the thing that I'm talking about, bring out human beings from the crowd. Because you need responsible people in the society. Responsible people are such that they can build economies that can project for tomorrow, okay? It is responsible people that can align to be able to engage with government, to be able to do what is right. Why have we not been able to fix power? It's not in the interest of government to fix power. It's in the interest of the society. The people that can be able to get pressure on them to do it are beholden to them. The people who can do the work are not empowered. The only way you can empower it is if we sit down today and you want to say, okay, the governors have come, what do we do, what don't we do? How many of them can pull people into the system so they can be accountable?
All right, so we'll take it from there. Responsible people or responsive system or structure. We'll get your views when we come back in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's our concluding moments now. So you, Mr. Okonkwo, has spoken about, well, we needed a responsible system, but you were going to respond.
Yeah.
Is it a responsive system or structure that is a problem?
Well, a responsive system is part of but systems are created by human beings. Because I like to look at what is possible, what is practicable.
From where we are? Or
Yeah, from where we are to where we want to be. Take, for example, in the creation of capital, which is talking about, which is based on how property is registered and then monetized. That is a responsibility for state governments. All land in the country is under the control of the state government.
But not the resources.
Not the resources.
The mineral resources.
Not the mineral resources, but the land and some of this property. So it is the states that will create these property registration agencies. But they first of all need to understand how it works before and how it will impact on the economy before they do it. Every state government has a land registry. Are those land registries efficient? Are they doing their work? Can you transfer property from one person to the other very quickly and very efficiently? If you can do that, then you begin to build the capital he's talking about, because you now have a stock of...
Okay, just give us this example now so that we can have more understanding of what you're both talking about. How do you, because if we rely on some of those figures where they say, look, it's some of the oil-producing states that have the highest number of unemployment figures in this country. What do the governors in those areas do?
Certainly. First of all, the wise man said that it's better to open your eyes and say, I don't understand, than to close your eyes and say, I don't believe. Right?
Which one do you choose?
I want to open my eyes. And I'm inviting my gentleman here, and I'm inviting the public to open your eyes and say, I don't understand. I don't understand. So you can get how it works. You cannot buy a vehicle and you want to drive, you say you don't want the tires. If we want to run a free economy, we need to create capital. If you create capital, you empower the people. People would have the ability to unleash more productivity from the assets that they have. The reason why I'm bringing it up, you see, we are custodians in that process. You were saying before we got on air how it's going to work and all that. That's our job. We are at this point now. That is why the book that I had mentioned to you, The Noble Triumph, that's why we are called the noble profession, because this is a philosopher in my industry, okay, that discovered that the best way that have made people progress in the world have been this enlistment on a formal property system, where everything, not just land, everything that you have, there is no chattel that you own in the West that does not have an economic benefit that it can offer you.
But the system is built on trust.
No, yes, the whole system is a process, which is what we are advocating, that we join hands with the relevant. I mean, in America, it's insurance companies that give you title over land. I mean, there are so many things that have worked, right? But the reason why I'm pointing to this direction is we are blessed in this nation for several reasons. Our people are not lazy. You wake up this morning, people are motivated in themselves to go and work. There is nobody that is an indigenous citizen of this country that does not have a heritage, even if it's 1 square kilometer of land that he can point as his own, even if he's in the village. In this country, there are so many people who want to do farming. You can't buy land. Abroad, when I was still working, we do rentals in farming real estate and all that. All those things are possible if we can have a system that can establish ownership, make me accountable to the mortgages that I can borrow against, and give me the ability to be able to increase production from the things that I have. The job before governors today, people can come and talk left, right, and center. There's sewage here, there's this. Every of these things must be powered by the people. Government is bad in business. And a lot of times people make these agitations. Governors who came there today, they have their own agenda. They want to, I mean, they've got their own issues. So how do you except you, I mean, that's why you people are privileged. Because the echelon that you occupy, the fourth echelon in the realm, your job is supposed to channel the demands of society and pressure government to be able to do this work. Except government is pressured, they don't do what the citizens want anywhere in the world.
Okay, Mr.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, go on.
Sorry.
No,
my brother here is a real estate man. So it's like giving every problem you give to a carpenter, you just sees nail and hammer on it. Our problems are much more complicated. Building capital is one of them. Building capital is one of them. Getting people to also concentrate in doing their jobs is another one of them. The economy is very, very complicated. But the question here is, one, how do we create employment? Number two, how do we lift our people out of poverty? To create employment, you give people skills. You put the system in place, not just only in property, but the systems that everywhere that work. The civil service must work. The man who works in the civil service must realize that he's doing a job of creativity. God created the world and created man in his own image. So every work is a fostering of the process of creation. I was having a conversation with somebody and he says, oh, I should help him get a job in the civil service. That he wants a job that will give him a chance to do the other things he wants to do. I said, what do you mean other things you want to do? If you are working in the civil service, you're working for pay. The other thing is, sometimes you see people say, oh, I'm managing something. What do you mean managing something? There's no job that is an infra dig. So, first of all, people have to have skills. They have to have the right attitude. They have to believe in the fact that work is an act of creation. And it is when you create things that the aggregate wealth increases.
Mr. Anyanwu,
Yes.
Chamberlain talked the other time. One second. Mr. Anyanwu, Chamberlain talked the other time about trust. What do you think is the trust quotient between Nigerians and their governors?
There is no trust quotient between Nigerians and Nigerians. There's no trust quotient between Nigerians and the government. There's no trust quotient between Nigerians and international investors.
What do we need to do?
But it has to start from somewhere.
What do we need to do?
Each and every one of us must resolve to be trustworthy. That is the only way it will ever work. So if I am governor, if I give you my word stands. If I'm a banker, if I give you my word stands. If I'm a civil servant, if I give you my word stands.
But
that's the only way trust can be built.
It doesn't stop at that. There have to be systems that are put in place, parameters, checks and balances to ensure that if one defaults that, the system is always seen to checkmate certain things, or else if you leave everything to that,
Yeah, but who makes the systems? Is it not you and I?
I
mean, if you treat one man differently, you treat another man differently, how can there be trust? The trust, see, fish gets rotten from the head, okay? If you go to a state and you want to build trust, that trustworthiness must start from the governor. Okay. If you come to a country and want to build trust, it must start from the president.
All right.
All right, just to put it in perspective, everything is not a nail before. But you also mentioned about the things you're talking about is also creating capital.
Well, everything in the bank is
just
about
that, yes,
capital now.
But you know, just to put things in perspective, you see, we're all driving towards the same direction. We want progress in this nation. Okay, people are coming at it from different angles. The basic thing is that government exists to solve complex problems. Right? Government must solve the problem that me and you cannot solve. You can't solve in your neighborhood and all that. But the basic things that give impetus for the development of a nation, if we want to run the kind of system we run, must translate from empowering the people. That is what has worked. That is why it's called a noble triumph. It comes from a lot of angles. You have a role to play. I hope you won't see every problem like a bank. Not a nail now.
All right, we'll anchor at that point then. We'll be speaking with Mr. Emeka Okonkwo, an estate surveyor and valuer, a certified realtor, as well as Mr. Anogwi Anyanwu, who is the CEO of Mainstreet. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you, Chairman.
All right, we'll turn our attention to a different matter now. And Marpa,